Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman issue 36, written by Joshua Williamson, with art by Dan Mora, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters by Ariana Meja. Superboy Prime takes over the mantle of Superman as Reign of the Superboys continues, with Prime addressing us, the reader, totally understanding that we just come out of a big event and now for the next few months he's going to be sticking around to learn some stuff and maybe beat up a few villains, hoping that we will come and join him for it. Prime wastes no time adapting to Metropolis and taking on Ignition, an old 90s Superman villain, smashing them around the city as he screams that no one messes with his town. I'm really eager to see Prime's tenure as Superman since Williamson is reintroduced him so well just before DCKO began and then through DCKO in the Superman ongoing here, and built off the happy ending he got at the end of Death Metal thanks to Jeff Johns, evolving Prime into a more mellowed out hero who's just trying to do the right thing. I'm excited to see what the next part of that is for this arc, like what's he going to be tested by. Hours before Prime's debut in Metropolis, Lois learns from Mr. Terrific aboard the Watchtower that his scans of her show that the powers were drained from her body completely. However, he cannot determine why they were reinstated, be it the intense solar flare from Sunboy of the Absolute Legion or the fear of danger she was in. He just does not know, and he cannot find out why. Lois doesn't have time for any more tests since she has finally made peace with not being Superwoman. Terrific hopes that she is okay since he knows what she saw of Superman after the tournament and how he rejected the Heart of Apocalypse and defeated Darkseid. Lois knows that her husband has been missing before, be it at Warworld, Hell, alternate worlds, or even death, but he always comes back. Mr. Terrific wishes he had her optimism, but he's now got Booster Gold going on a search and rescue mission for Superman through time, which we're actually seeing over in Action Comics right now. Now I really wish we had seen Lois's message with Superman. I guess it was meant to be that moment in time that Doomsday created that was in the last issue of DCKO, but I kind of wanted it to be a bit more intimate, just both of them together. You know, he appears as Clark to her or something and they have a moment together where they can just talk and he can tell her what he is going to do and everything. I mean, we can still probably get that. Maybe Williamson is keeping that from us and that's because it's got some like pertinent information in it, but I'm intrigued to see why they didn't do it right off the bat. Like, I would have thought you would have opened this issue with that and maybe Superman sort of saying to Lois, hey, we got to give Prime a chance or something, and that's why Lois is so eager to actually help him, along with the fact that she was actually aided by him through DCKO, through their little adventure to find Time Trapper. It's just really odd. We had that last issue of DCKO and Superman just didn't get a moment with his wife or anyone in his family. Lois and Terrific's chat comes to a close when Lois finds some of the female heroes checking out Superboy Prime, who's busy lifting well over 1 million pounds with ease. Talk turns to Prime's aid with stopping Darkseid, but Terrific knows that the supposed hero can't live on the Watchtower thanks to people remembering what he's done in the past, and Prime is seen as a danger, and with no Superman to vouch for him, people don't want to give him a second chance, let alone team up with him. Michael, however, is more concerned with the fact that Prime is from a world where they are all comic book characters and he knows all about their histories, even things that are much more intimate than other people should know. And if that were to get out and someone found out and used it against them, that would be very bad. I really like the heroes all knowing that Prime is and can be meta referencing them. That's the cool concept I hadn't considered them actually using in the plot, since often it's just waved off as Prime being crazy or a little quirky. You know, he's saying all these things about, you know, Superman being in this comic and Flash being here and there, and they just kind of wave it off. It's never really brought up in the actual story, so I like that Williamson is building on that and realizing, hey, there's some cool things here. All the heroes don't trust him because he knows literally everything about their lives, even things, you know, their partners don't even know. So I'm intrigued to see if that's going to get out. I'm sure it will be. I'm sure there'll be some sort of information that leaks and Prime will get the blame for it and he'll have to clear his name or something. It's just a really cool idea. Lois has an idea about how to deal with Prime, meeting with him down in Metropolis and telling him he needs to get a job, something he doesn't like since he's Superman. He can just find some treasure or some diamonds and cash them in and make some money. Lois asks if that really is something that Superman would do, and Prime relents, but scoffs at the idea of getting a mailroom job at the Daily Planet, since besides being beneath him, he looks a lot like Clark Kent and questions will be asked. Since he can't go back home to his world without a guide, he wants to just live a little bit and see the sights and be free from a crossover event for once. Lois asks him quite a simple question: what does he want? And Prime tells her that he wants to show everyone that he can be the greatest hero the world has ever known, and maybe he can be Superman and a member of the Justice League and of the Trinity, and just prove that he can be a good guy, and even get his own issue 1. Laying out what Prime wants so simply is good, and it is so simple. He just wants to be a hero. He wants to be like his hero. He wants to be like Superman. It's as simple as that, and I like that Williamson is not complicating it or anything. That's just the driving force of this book and of Superboy Prime's tenure as Superman. He wants to just be Superman. I do really like, though, him mentioning how he never really comes out in comics unless it's a crossover event or a crisis or something, and that is really true. He's always in, the big crisis event, like, we just had DC KO and he was a big character in that, and I like that he knows that and he just wants to, change gears a little bit and actually just be in an ongoing and just be able to live life, because that's where these characters live their lives, in the ongoings, in, the issues 12, 13, 14, just the continuous issues, not the big events. So I really like that idea. A huge explosion across town draws Prime's attention, and after being told not to hurt anyone, he speeds off, singing a Superman-themed version of the Spider-Man cartoon theme as he whips across town. Prime soon finds the source of the explosion is Ignition, a deep-cut Superman villain who wants to take Metropolis for himself now that the Man of Steel is not around anymore. Prime, of course, loves the 90s coded throwback villain, going toe-to-toe with him, but Ignition isn't worried about the boy. Prime soon hears people in trouble, something Ignition notices, gloating how he's even distracted and could never do what Superman does. Prime thinks about what Superman would do and then just does it, saving the people. It's so cool seeing Prime actually just be the hero and help the people first and foremost. He's actually trying, and it's awesome. Ignition uses the saves as a distraction and blasts Prime with his cannons, making Prime react in anger as he's upset that Ignition made him look bad. Lois fights her way through the crowd as Prime takes down Ignition, hitting him until he doesn't get up again. This is the stuff we saw at the start of the issue. She tells Prime to stand down since the villain has had enough, but Prime goes too far, ripping Ignition's head clean off and proclaiming Metropolis is his now and anyone who says differently will die. Now things get extremely meta here, even for Superboy Prime standards, as the artwork literally erases itself down to simple pencil work and then redraws itself so that he defeats Ignition and doesn't kill him, with Prime thinking that it was all in his head, so his head was coming up with the comic panels and then he just redrew them in his head in Dan Mora's art style. That's so cool. I wonder if this is going to be a running thing, because this is just like a whole other ball game with Prime, because I don't think he's ever done stuff like this. He's punched through dimensions and, referenced us, the reader, and everything, but he's never actively redrawn a comic book. But it also makes me question whether it's actually him doing it. Maybe this is Superman's doing. Maybe Superman is actually watching over him and maybe just, editing things here and there so that Prime will actually do the right thing and not turn immediately into a homicidal maniac. With the pages rewritten, the crowd actually cheer for Superboy Prime, who loves the cheers and laughter and welcomes them. Prime also finds himself distracted again with what would Superman do, and he spots Asteroid Comics, a local comic book shop, and after changing into his Legion of Superheroes shirt, he finds the two clerks inside arguing over all the work they have to do to organize the comic long boxes, but neither of them seem to know what is actually worth being graded and what is worth being chucked in the dollar bin. Luckily, Prime knows it all, including who the artist on The Flash Comics issue 1 was that one of the clerks was complaining about. Prime quickly organizes the comics and is hired as the new member of the Asteroid Comic Shop team. This is something that I am very excited about. This is probably the best possible job for Superboy Prime. He is a big comic book nerd, and I love that this gives Williamson a chance to work a comic book shop into the story and go into how one is run, I imagine. Prime is going to get angry at people who, misremember something in a comic. I can't wait to see what he's actually going to be like talking with other fans. That's going to be really interesting, and I'm also really intrigued to see if there's going to be any cameos from people that we know through the YouTube community, like Comic Pop and all of those guys appearing in, the background of these scenes. That's going to be really fun to see, and I'm intrigued to see how Prime is going to handle that, because I have to imagine he's going to apply his Superman duties to comic books and try and think about how Clark would view this and not get angry at people over, petty things, and it's going to be a load of fun. The store owner gives Prime some modern comics to get caught up with, and later on Lois helps him move into his new apartment, which is some dingy apartment building on the other side of town. However, the female tenants of the building are more than happy to have someone like Prime move in, all itching to help him move in. Lois ends up being like a mother to Prime, which must be weird for her since this guy is like a younger version of her husband, but also kind of looks like her son as well. But I like that she is still helping him. She's offering her number, so if he just wants to talk, they can just talk, because he's in a world that's not like his and might be scary to him or something. And I kind of like that. And I like that Prime is open to that as well. I like that Prime also mentions that Lois is the best, and that's why she had a comic run that went for well over 100 issues, and hopes that she will get a comic again, which I've been saying for years. We need another Lois Lane comic book. We had that Greg Rucka run a couple of years ago, and we need something else, and like a Daily Planet special, just something that gets to explore that side of Metropolis. And hey, maybe this is Williamson maybe hinting at maybe something that might be coming along the line, because, you can get a bit meta with Prime. Prime settles into his new apartment, knowing that he now has a real life, a job, and a place to live, and he can now show everyone he has changed. Prime gets caught up on some of the newer comic books, but soon hears someone call for help, so uttering his primetime catchphrase, he speeds off across town to do some good. As Prime goes soaring through the air, a familiar face watches him as Manchester Black has somehow returned, albeit a bit zombified and seemingly a spirit or a ghost. Manchester thinks this is a new kind of Superman to play with, one that has all of the secrets of the multiverse, so he's eager to play with them. So Manchester coming back was not in my bingo card at all. It's been a long while since we last saw him. In fact, Williamson was one of the writers that actually killed him off back in Action Comics 1050, just before Dark Crisis of Infinite Earths. So I'm really excited that he's the one who gets to bring him back, and I'm really intrigued to see what he's got in store for Prime. Obviously, they made that hint at the start of the issue. There was a big signpost about someone using Prime's knowledge of the multiverse and like all of the heroes and all the stuff he knows of them, and I guess that's what Manchester is going to be doing. And as I said, he's probably going to frame Superboy Prime for something and blame him, and people will immediately blame him because he used to be a villain and he can't be trusted. But I'm intrigued to see how Manchester is actually going to test Prime, and how he's going to approach him, being that this is a Superboy Prime who can and will kill, which was his whole thing with Superman, trying to get Superman to kill, and it never worked. So I'm intrigued to see what his approach to Superboy Prime will be. Superman issue 36 was everything I wanted, with Superboy Prime taking over the mantle of the Man of Steel. Joshua Williamson really dug deep and gave him a great through line of wanting to be good and wanting to be Superman and make good on his promise to help out the people of Earth and Metropolis. All of the little things that Williamson did, with him working at a comic book shop, getting an apartment, living a life outside of the crossovers and the crisis events that he usually appears in, is so good, and it's evergreen stuff. It's stuff that we've never seen with the character before. So I'm intrigued to see what Williamson and what other writers will do with the character now that he's let loose on Earth Prime. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.